Finding quality childcare is always a challenge, whether you're planning for the delivery of your twins or you're an experienced parent. We all know that we need help either full-time or occasionally just to get out of the house. But how do you know what's right for you? When comparing nannies, babysitters, daycare centers, and au pairs, you might be surprised at the differences in affordability and flexibility. I'm Christine Stewart Fitzgerald, here with our expert panelists discussing childcare options for twins. This is Twin Talks, episode number 17.
The ultrasound shows your babies to be healthy.
What? Did you say babies? You're huge. Are you having twins?
Are they natural?
Which one do you like better?
Twins, huh? My neighbor's cousin's brother's uncle's a twin.
So can they read each other's minds?
How do you tell them apart?
Twins? You got a 2 for 1.
Do twins run in your family?
Double trouble. You're not having any more, are you?
At least you're not Octomom.
If you're pregnant with twins or you're an experienced twin parent, odds are you've heard it all before. Now it's time to hear from the experts. This is Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2. Welcome to Twin Talks, broadcasting from the Birth Education Center of San Diego. Twin Talks is your weekly online, on-the-go support group for expecting and new parents of twins. I'm your host, Christine Stewart Fitzgerald. Have you heard about the Twin Talks Club? Our members get bonus content after each new show, plus special giveaways and discounts. Subscribe to our monthly Twin Talks newsletter and learn about the latest episodes available. And another way for you to stay connected is by downloading our free Twin Talks app, available in the Android and iTunes marketplace. And before we get started, we're going to go around and introduce our panelists here in the room. We'll start with Casey.
My name is Casey. I am a almost 37-year-old full-time teacher. I have a 5-year-old daughter and 20-month-old twins, a boy and a girl.
I'm Brenda Rule. I'm 49 years old. I work full-time as a corporate accountant. My oldest son, Benjamin, is 13, and my identical twin boys, Joshua and Jonathan, are 11.
Hi, my name is Dawn Lancaster. I am 32 years old. I am a business analyst for a children's hospital here in San Diego. I have fraternal twin boys, Jackson and Alexander, and they are 14 months.
I'm Shelley Steele. I'm the producer here at Twin Talks, and I'm also a high school history teacher. I have 2 children. They're identical twin boys, Grayson and Sawyer. Before we get started, I wanted to talk to you guys about our virtual panelist program, so you can become part of our conversation from home. You can log onto our Facebook page and follow along there, or you can follow us on Twitter. Use the hashtag TwinTalksVP to stay connected with our show.
And as your host, I'm Christine Stewart Fitzgerald. I have twin identical girls who are 4.5, and I have a singleton girl who is 15 months old. So lots of fun. Today we're doing a special segment called the annoying and crazy questions that you hear from strangers along the way as twin parents. So we have one of our panelists joining us today, and she's got a story to share.
Hi, I'm Shannon. I have 11-month fraternal boys, and first of all, you do get silly questions all the time. I have people say, "Are they twins?" Yes. "Are they yours?" Yes. "Are they both yours?" No.
I just rented one out.
One of them is mine, so mine don't look alikes. But still, really? I just picked one up off the street. But I was actually in Balboa Park. I have an older daughter who takes ballet there, and I was chased down by a bunch of tourists with their cameras, and these were tourists from another country, with their cameras who started taking pictures of my boys, of my twins, and we're like,
the novelty of it.
What are you doing? Like, these are my, what? You can't just take pictures of someone else's kids. Like, it doesn't work like that. And of course, they didn't speak any English, and they were so excited, and they're all like, "Come on, look," and they're just, clicking away.
That's so cute.
We're like, "This is crazy. Let's just go." We're like trying to run away.
So you didn't know, being harassed by, tourists with cameras was going to be part of the package.
No, I did not.
So if you've got a funny story you'd like to share about, your twins and being out and about and hearing some crazy questions, give us a call on our hotline, 619-866-4775, or you can leave us a comment on our Facebook page as well. So today's topic is childcare options for twins. Today we have a slightly different format, and we're featuring our panelists as our expert parents who can give us an inside view of the pros and cons of using nannies versus daycare or babysitters or au pairs. And so they're here to cut through all the hype and help us understand why using each type of service may or may not be a good fit based on your family's needs. So welcome, everyone. Let's take a look at each type of care. Well, first of all, let's look at nannies. So what are the advantages of hiring a full-time nanny?
I found a nanny was very convenient because I wasn't restricted to the specific hours of a daycare facility. Because I was working full-time and so was my husband, if I was running late, I didn't have that stress. I've done both. I did quite an extensive time with childcare outside the home, and that was probably one of the most difficult things about that is it's 5 minutes to 6, and I'm going to get charged $1 a minute per child after hours and all that. So that flexibility was a huge plus for me.
Mm-hmm. I enjoy the one-on-one interaction. My full-time nanny has a few kids of her own, which have become kind of like sisters for my boys. But I can work with her and say, hey, this is what happened last night. Can we try to do this today in today's schedule? She follows the schedule that we have at home to a T. She feeds them exactly what I tell her to feed them if that's what I choose. We have a weekly learning schedule that we follow, and she does art projects every day with them to follow that weekly learning schedule. So the flexibility of what I believe I want my boys to be learning or eating or schedule-wise is she follows exactly what we want her to do.
Oh, that's great. And I would think now with nannies, this is their full-time job. So they're an expert in their field of childcare. I'm getting these visions of, sort of the Mary Poppins, but or super nanny. And I would expect that some of them, they've been doing this for quite a long time and probably have some suggestions and recommendations for parents, and especially maybe new parents might benefit from that too.
Mine was a little bit different than that because she was more grandmotherly. She was older and was a friend of the family, and so she was more providing a nurturing role because she watched my twins for the first 2 years, and so it was really just taking on that sort of grandmother role during the day. One wonderful thing about it is, again, with her being there all day long, and because the twins were so young, during nap time, she did everything else around the house. I remember the greatest day ever was coming home one night, exhausted from work, exhausted from the kids and all that, and thinking, I got to do laundry now. And I opened my laundry basket, and it was empty because she had done all of it. So she would do cleaning, a little bit of cooking here and there, things like that. So she had a slightly different role than some of the more typical nannies.
Okay. And is that common, or what are some of the typical duties for nannies? Obviously taking care of the kids, but what else do they often do?
I dropped my boys off at the nanny's house. So that was one of the options that worked best for us. And so, unfortunately, my cleaning piles up and my laundry piles up, and I have to come home and cook, and then that's definitely where a schedule comes into play. But mainly her taking care of the boys is the sole thing that we were looking for.
That's great. And also, as far as, the schedule, if you're working full-time, regular hours, are they available in mornings and evening, kind of extended hours?
When needed be, we didn't really take advantage of her in that respect. There were certainly times when situations came up and we said, hey, we have this and this and this after work. Can you stay longer? And she was absolutely open to that whenever necessary. But we figured she was already putting in such a long day as it was, because it's not just your 8 to 5 year work hours. Excuse me. You've also got commute time to add on top of there, and your own prep time. You got to get your own shower in the morning and all that. And so I would pick my nanny up very early because she didn't drive, bring her home practically in the dark in the morning, and then someone was already there to take care of the babies once they started waking up while I was taking my shower, and I didn't have to worry about that. So we didn't go too far into the evenings, but that when we needed to, though, she was always available for that.
So it sounds like you had to do some driving and a little bit of providing some support as well.
It was, but that was some of my favorite times of the day because it was Dawn, and she and I would, first thing in the morning, we would have our little conversations in the car on the way back to the house after I pick her up, and I cherish those times at this point of just being able to do that. And that was how I started my day every day. It was just such a routine, and it sort of got both of us to sort of catch up on things and go over anything we needed to for that upcoming day. Mm-hmm. So it was difficult, but it was a nice plus.
Are there any downsides to having, a nanny, a single child care provider?
I haven't found one. I feel like I've been fairly lucky, finding the right person, the right fit for us. It makes it very enjoyable.
And how did you find your nanny?
I found my nanny on the internet. So when my boys were first born, I had a part-time nanny to kind of help around the house. about 2 to 3 times a week. That gave me the option to sleep. It also gave me the option to go grocery shopping without trying to take 2 little infants. I used care.com. Really was beneficial the first time, so we tried it again, and we found a wonderful nanny who was willing to accept what we were willing to pay.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of pay, so what is a going rate for nanny for twins specifically? And I guess, Brenda, you've had a total of 3.
Yes.
So what would you expect to pay a nanny?
Mine is tough because it was 11 years ago, so I don't know if it's comparable at all in today's dollars. Trying to remember what it was. I know it was several $100s a week, but I really don't recall exactly what it was at this point.
We were on a budget, so I know that some nannies are paid or expecting to be paid anywhere between $15 and $20 an hour. We wanted to find somebody who was willing to fit into our budget, so we were willing to pay between $10 and $11 an hour. And we ended up finding a wonderful nanny for that price. So I think that if you go the right avenues, that you can find a nanny that's willing to work for what you're willing to pay.
That's great to hear. And it sounds like also that, regardless of where you're located, if you're in a large metropolitan area or if you're in a more rural environment, I mean, the pay scale is going to be slightly different, but you can probably find someone who's willing to work with your budget. And now speaking of nannies, I think I've heard they're an employee. How does that work with paying them, and then are they expecting to have a vacation time off, or how does that work?
Ours didn't really. She wasn't really because again, her circumstances being a little bit older, and she had lots of other close family in town. She wasn't expecting, a 2-week vacation or a 1-week vacation. And when we took time off, she got that time off, obviously. But ours, that wasn't really a consideration that we had to work with.
I think that's definitely a plus with having a nanny, is you get to kind of come to that on your own terms together. I have a quarterly meeting with my nanny to discuss vacations and certain time that's needed off. For instance, my parents are coming into town and she doesn't get 3 days worth of pay. Do I think that's fair to her because my parents are coming into town? No. So I feel like I'm going to be generous and pay her for that time, even though she's not watching the boys, kind of a bonus to her. So definitely flexibility there and what they're willing to work with you on. And then another thing is the taxes. That's definitely a conversation that you want to have with that employee, because they are considered an employee, on how that you want to work that situation.
So probably talk to your tax consultant, since they are, I think, domestic worker, I know what the term is. Okay, we're going to change gears here and talk about some daycare centers. So how do you find a good daycare center, and also, why would that be a good choice, compared to other types of services?
Both of for my 5-year-old and my twins, it was both through referrals. The first daycare provider, I don't know if I want to say I learned a lesson per se, but our first daycare provider was not licensed. It was an in-home daycare. It was good, but now that I do have a licensed in-home daycare, I do see the differences, and I would highly suggest going with a licensed daycare versus an unlicensed. I think licensed daycares are more cautious of situations around the home and what they're providing for the children versus an unlicensed who doesn't have to worry about that. But both were through word of mouth. The twins, I have to admit, was a lot harder and took a lot more time to find a provider just because there's 2 of them. Trying to find a place for 2 because of licensing and ages was difficult. Also, the second time around, which we didn't have to worry about the first time around, was a retainer fee.
So you have to pay up front just to hold a place?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, and they were fantastic, and they let us kind of, give a month type thing, but we did have to pay several months in advance to hold a spot for the 2. And it was at a discounted rate, but it was kind of the reality is, oh gosh, we have to hold a spot for 2.
Wow. Was it tough? So you're saying it's tough to find a place for 2. And had anyone else had trouble with that?
We didn't, because I had done the nanny for the first 2 years with the boys, but with my older child, he was at an in-home daycare with a licensed care provider for about his first 8 months, because I went back to work after a couple of months. But only because he was on a waiting list. I had researched daycare centers and had gone to quite a number of them within the community, found one that I absolutely loved, got on the waiting list, but because, newborn care is very difficult to find, he was on a waiting list for there. Because he was already there for a year and a half or so, when I got pregnant with the twins, I told them first that I was pregnant again, and they immediately got me on the waiting list for my supposedly single baby, and then a few weeks in found out that there were two. And I remembered about halfway through my pregnancy asking them at one point, "Oh my gosh, I forgot it's two," and they said, "No, we changed it to two as soon as you told us, because we knew you would need the spots." So that wasn't an issue. I ended up keeping them home for 2 years, more for health issues, because they ended up being preemies, and I saw how many illnesses my son had picked up the first couple of years, which is just it's inevitable. It's just a part of daycare centers, and I wanted to try and avoid that as much as possible with them. Eventually got to the point where I think the daycare facility was the best option for them after a couple of years, just to get them into some other things that we're going to probably touch on later.
And it sounds like you decided that for health reasons you wanted to keep your twins out of daycare from the beginning.
Correct.
And
yes.
Did you guys find that as well? Was that maybe part of your decision to use a nanny, or was that a concern for you?
The first option that we looked into was military daycare, and we had a problem with the wait list. Of course, there's a running wait list in San Diego, and we noticed that one boy would get accepted and the other boy was still on the wait list. So juggling that was not going to work for us. We did use that daycare. They have an hourly program, and the third time that our boys were in that program for hourly care, we were unpacking our boxes when we moved here. They got sick. So I'm like, maybe this option is not really going to work for us.
Wow. And if you find out you're having twins and you are considering daycare, then you probably have to put your name on a list, like when you first find out you're having twins.
You do, yeah.
What are some of the costs of daycare?
I pulled up in San Diego, so we could just kind of look at comparison. And even in just one city, it's going to vary widely by the area of town you're in, but it looks like infant daycare, you're looking at between $200 and $300 a week per baby. Toddler gets a little bit lower. It's more on the 200 side, maybe a little bit more, and then preschool is about probably similar to that. So you're definitely looking at some high numbers, $900 to $1,200 a month per kid. And usually a second child discount's only 5%, which is...
That's it?
Yeah, you'd think it's a buy one, get one or something, but no. So here in San Diego, daycare centers are going to be on the pricier side. The in-home ones are a little bit more affordable usually. They tend to be on that lower side, more like $150 to $200 a week, depending on which part of the town that you're in.
Yeah, those daycare center rates are consistent with what we paid 11 years ago. So it sounds like they haven't really changed all that much. And with having, once my twins were 2, my oldest was 4. So at one point we had all 3 in a daycare center. And I was paying college tuition prices at that time. And I always, my friends who had their kids at home and all that ended up sending their kids to private school for kindergarten, elementary, and all of that. And so we sort of switched financial roles. I was paying those dollars when they were babies, and then ended up getting them in public school, and then that's when they took over and started paying these incredible dollars.
As I say, we pay. Well, for a while we were paying a third mortgage, but it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Preschool with an employee discount was running us with care about $600 a month, and then the twins, depending on the amount of days in the month, it's anywhere from $1,100 to $1,400 a month, and that's with the sibling discount. So I want to say it's $275 a week with the sibling discount, which I think ours is 15% was for the second.
So it adds up with 2.
Yes.
So when we come back, we're going to take a break, and we're going to come back and look at some other options that maybe some parents haven't considered. Welcome back. Today we're talking about childcare options for twins, and our discussion continues as we look at some of the little-known facts that may make different childcare services right for your family. So we're going to talk about au pairs. Now, I actually had the privilege of having an au pair in my home. We had actually 2 au pairs one for 1 year, and then they go home. So an au pair, just to give a little bit of background, it's a international student exchange program. And so you would have a college age student, someone between 19 and 25, come to your home. They work 45 hours a week, and the cost is actually fixed. So you would have to, you go through an agency to get the whole background check and find the au pair for you, and usually pay an agency fee of about, let's say $7,000. And then you would pay your au pair the current rate is $200 a week. And you get the benefit of having someone in your home full time, and much like a nanny, you're setting the rules as the parent, and you can be as strict as you want to, and very specific as far as scheduling and diet and activities, that sort of thing, so. The way my husband and I went to it is that my mother-in-law, she's originally from Germany, and she came to the United States as an au pair. And so that was sort of the little thought in our heads, well, this might be an option for us. We were looking at, some different options, and we found it to be really affordable. I have to say, I think the affordability, overall, it comes out to be about $18,000 a year for two. So we felt that was a good way for us.
Are there special considerations with an au pair situation for providing living facilities and then also privacy issues?
Yes. Now, the requirements of the program are that you have a bedroom for the au pair. They don't have to have their own bathroom or anything, but they must have a private bedroom. And I think for privacy issues, yes, you do have someone living in your home, and I don't know. I personally think, during those twin years, we had mother-in-laws and visitors, and we had a lot of people coming through. So I felt like I had given up a lot of privacy anyway to having someone live there. But I understand there are some people who say, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine having someone, in my house. So that's definitely a consideration there.
Yeah. And going the other direction for the au pair's privacy, did they feel that they were given their own space and their own time when they were off the clock?
Yes. And I think I found in our case, our au pairs, when they were done working, we had traditional sort of 8 to 5 schedule. And when they were done at 5, they would go into their room and get on their computer and, Facebook, and they'd be, going out the door, going to the gym, going to see their other au pair friends. And so we would pretty much they'd either be on the clock with our girls, or we'd have dinner together, sometimes as a family, or they'd be just off on their own. So we didn't feel like we were stepping on toes, too much. But yeah, I think that helps. Now, I will say there are some downsides to having an au pair. You have someone in your house, and they're a college student, so they're not a professional. They have some training when they come to the United States. It's like a week-long training of CPR and general child care, and they do have usually some babysitting experience. But from maturity level, they're college students. And you really there's a little bit of parenting involved. I will say that we set up rules, and I think it is manageable. We set up rules in our home, like we set up curfews. If they were going to be working at 8 a.m., then their curfew was 12 midnight the night before, that they had to be home. And we set it. We just spelled out rules and said, okay, no alcohol, consumption in the home. No, of course, no illegal drugs, no smoking, that sort of thing. But we just laid it all out and said, this is what we expect. And there will be. They're college students, so sometimes they're kind of pushing the limits. And I know of some incidences where they don't always have driving experience and backing into other cars. But it's manageable, and so I can say we had a really great positive experience out of that.
Were there cultural differences?
And it's a great, oh my gosh, what a great opportunity. Both of our au pairs came from Austria. And part of that, we wanted to have German, influence and expose our girls to another language. And so it was great. Our second au pair decided, all on her own, that she would only speak German for the first half of the day. And then when the girls went down for the nap, and then she'd speak English for the second half of the day. And so it's cute. My girls to this day, when they go playing, it's like, oh, we're going to go to the Spielplatz. It's very cute. So we really loved having that influence. So if I would say if you're open to having, some cultural exchange, it's a great option. We're looking at full-time childcare, but I think even for those of us who don't always have a need for full-time care, we all need babysitters from time to time. So how do you guys, work with babysitters? How do they fit into your needs? And what do you look for in finding a good babysitter?
Definitely experience with twins. Twins can definitely be a handful, and I know some of the other panelists have twins and then another sibling. So, but for me, I'm looking for experience with twins, and babysitters are really important to us because we like our date nights. They've come a little bit more fewer and far between since I started full-time work because we spend a lot of family time together. But definitely like to get out every once in a while and have a date. It's very important for a relationship.
We didn't use a lot of outside babysitters when the boys were younger. It was usually family members, one of the two grandmothers or our nanny. Even when she was no longer our nanny, that's who we used as our babysitters. So that was terrific once the boys were in the full-time daycare center. When they became school age, we used a babysitter more for after school. When they weren't in the after school program, we had someone with a late teen, early 20s college student who we hired to pick the boys up after school, take them home, help them get their homework done, and just really take care of them until we get home from work. So a couple of different situations there, but a lot of it was usually with us word of mouth friends. We didn't have to go through some of the different ways to find an unknown babysitter. So it was a little bit easier for us that way.
That's great that you had consistency too. I know sometimes it's so hard to get a babysitter and then in life they change and move on, and so I think that also helps for the kids to get to know maybe one or two people.
With babysitters for date night, the real challenge is dinner and bedtime, and so my mom is the only babysitter that they've had, unless you count when my dad comes over too. But just getting two kids to bed is a struggle for me as an experienced twin mom, making sure that they go through, like when they're little, I mean, I wouldn't have even had anybody because they didn't even sleep for me. So they're certainly not sleeping for somebody else. But even now, are they wearing the right jammies? Are they wearing the right diaper? Did they brush their teeth? Did they eat anything? Like, are they in the right cribs kind of thing? And so it's just kind of, I think, a comfort level. I know some of the other moms have used babysitters. One of them waits till the kids go to sleep. But one of the moms in my group has used babysitters pretty regularly now, but she took the time and they would come over during like nap time first just to watch the routine and then come at nighttime and be there. And so I think it's really building a relationship because it is infinitely harder. I mean, I guess you would say twice as hard, but I would say 4 times as hard to get 2 kids to bed as it is to get one.
And that option of having your babysitter not start until after the kids go to bed is actually a great thing. We did that on a few times early on.
I had a late dinner.
I had my babysitter come and walk through a nighttime routine. She actually came for a play date, and then she came and walked through the nighttime routine. And then when she came, I had a piece of paper, step by step by step, exactly how the boys were used to their nighttime routine.
That's a great idea. So and then again, if you have other babysitters or other people, family included, everybody's on the same page. Now, I think I've heard a lot of you have had family close by and helping out, which is, oh my gosh, such a blessing. But if you do have to go and find an outside babysitter, where's your go-to? Where's your best resources?
I went to care.com. Like I said, it's been very good to me, and I did a couple interviews. I definitely have to feel comfortable with the person that's babysitting. Unfortunately, we've never had family close by. I think the closest family we had when the boys were born were 2.5 hours away. But now everybody's on the East Coast and we're on the West Coast.
Yeah, I used a website myself. I've used Sitter City, and I think there's Urban Sitter. And I think those can be great resources, kind of like dating, you find.
I think
too,
word of mouth, with twin groups would be a good place to start. I mean, if I was ever looking for a babysitter, I'd probably ask my friends first, because if they have somebody who's good with twins, and it's not their weekend to go out, then that might be a good idea, and I know when I was babysitting, I was always happy to have a couple families to keep some more money in my pocket. So, definitely reaching out through your twin groups and finding out, do you know someone who's good with twins? Are you willing to share? I think we sometimes are worried about stepping on toes, but, twin moms are willing to share pretty much everything. So
excellent point. And what's the going rate for babysitters for twins, an hourly rate? What would you guys?
We pay $12 an hour.
Okay.
That sounds about right on the few times when I don't pay my mom when she watches the boys, or didn't back in the day.
Don't tell my mom she should be getting $12
Yeah, I think, and when we use babysitters, it's usually they kind of have a $10, maybe $11 for one, and $12 for two, and $14 for three, and it kind of just goes up from there. So I think that kind of helps. Lastly, so what would you recommend to twin parents when they're trying to figure out, okay, which option should I do? Nannies, daycare, childcare. How do you go through the process? What recommendations can you give?
Well, I'll start because I didn't use any of them. So we looked at budget, and it wasn't it just wasn't in the cards for us, daycare times 2. It wasn't something we were able to swing. And so what we did actually when I was pregnant is I'm a teacher, but my husband was kind of in a job that wasn't going anywhere really. And so he looked for a job that had evening hours and flexibility. And we were able to kind of connect it so that I teach during the day and then he works at night, 3 weeknights, like 3 school nights, and then he works on the weekends when I'm home. And so we kind of just traded off. And then when our schedules overlap, we'd have someone come over to fill in, my dad or my mom or my sister-in-law to do the overlap care. And so we're definitely starting to look at maybe, preschool options in the future. But I think just to know that, that is one option, so that you can both work and schedule that around. But even the most affordable daycare for us, we were living in a 1-bedroom and driving a Civic coupe. So we already had to upgrade enough when we found out we were having twins.
I would say a really big thing is just to keep your options open and be flexible, but also plan ahead. We did literally everything. We did the family member, the in-home daycare, at someone else's house, the nanny, the preschool, all of it. And your circumstances change. We did different ones for different reasons and recognized there are pluses and minuses to all of those situations. And depending on what was going on with our lives, with our children, what ages they were at, what developmental needs they had at the time, we were flexible enough to say, we want to switch to this now. That's a better environment for our children.
And it may be that when they reach different developmental stages, that something may be more appropriate. If maybe you're looking to have more interaction with other children, and so that's maybe putting them in daycare when they're older and they can, have more socialization. That might be, a desire.
That was a big
parents.
driver for our decision after 2 years, after, again, keeping the twins home for health reasons, that they were really, really ready for that interaction, and that it was a big benefit to them to switch to that environment, both academically. I know that sounds crazy, 2 years old, but it was a child learning center. It wasn't just a child babysitting center. And there were lots of great activities and educational activities that they did for the next 3 years before starting kindergarten. That and all the social aspects of it. And they were split up. I forgot to touch on that aspect of it. I assumed they would be in the same class, and the daycare or the center director said, no, we really prefer to keep twins separate, and they flourished. I was terrified, and they did great. And we were talking earlier about one twin being more dominant over the other, and they reversed roles because the one who had always been on the kind of the underside of that got the opportunity to not have to be with his brother, and he got to sort of just open up and gain his own independence and confidence.
Wow, that's a great thing to consider. Well, we're going to wrap this up, and I'm just going to say, thank you so much to our panelists for joining us today. And for more information about childcare options, and for more information about any of our experts or panelists, visit the episode page on our website. And this conversation continues for members of our Twin Talks Club. And after the show, our panelists are going to share with us some crazy stories about their childhood, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So for more information about the Twin Talks Club, visit our website, twintalks.com. Here's a question from one of our listeners. This comes from Stephanie of Virginia. I recently downloaded the Twin Talks app. I travel a lot for my job, and I don't always get a clear internet signal. Is there a way to download episodes and listen to them later?
Hey, Stephanie, this is Sunny. I'm one of the producers on Twin Talks, and thank you so much for downloading our Twin Talks app. We are big fans of our apps because we all listen to apps, and it's a great way to listen to the show on the go when you're out with your little ones. And so downloading the episodes, this is really easy to do because I know, at least personally with me, I don't always get great reception with my phone either. So when you log into the app, you're going to go to the episodes page, which is the main page on the app. And you'll notice next to each episode, there's a little star. Well, when you do have good reception, if you click on that little star, you're going to see this little ring. It turns yellow and this little ring starts to form around the episode. When that ring is complete, so it forms a circle around a star, that means that the episode is downloaded to your app. So regardless of what kind of internet signal you're getting, that's actually on your app. You can listen to it whenever you want. So if you're going to be traveling or you're not going to get great reception, you may want to do this ahead of time to be able to listen to the episodes whenever you want. Thanks so much for your question.
That wraps up our show for today. We appreciate you listening to Twin Talks. Join in on the discussion by posting your comments on the Twin Talks Facebook page or call our voicemail at 619-866-4775. And don't forget to check out our sister shows, Preggy Pals for expecting parents, the Boob Group for moms who breastfeed their babies, and Parent Savers, an online support group for new parents. And next week, we're going to be talking about sibling rivalry between twins. This is Twin Talks, Parenting Times 2.
This has been a New Mommy Media production. The information and material contained in this episode are presented for educational purposes only. Statements and opinions expressed in this episode are not necessarily those of New Mommy Media and should not be considered facts. While such information and materials are believed to be accurate, it is not intended to replace or substitute for professional medical advice or care, and should not be used for diagnosing or treating healthcare problem or disease or prescribing any medication. If you have questions or concerns regarding your physical or mental health or the health of your baby, please seek assistance from a qualified healthcare provider.
New Mommy Media is expanding our lineup of shows for new and expecting parents. If you have an idea for a new series, or if you're a business or organization interested in joining our network of shows through a co-branded podcast, visit newmommymedia.com. Hey mamas, don't forget to check out Mighty Moms. It's our online community built for new moms just like you. Not only can you connect with other moms, but you can also join us backstage for special mom-only online events. And you'll also be notified when we're recording so you can join us as a special guest. Visit our website, newmommymedia.com, and click on the Mighty Moms banner. It's free. That's newmommymedia.com. See you there.